I would like to welcome our speaker Aditya Deshpande. Aditya is Manager, Product Management at Dhruv, and he would be delivering an interactive talk session on Beyond Bugs, testing data security in the age of AI and DSPM. So to know more about Aditya, you can go through the below link. So Aditya, it's over to you now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Srimay.
Yeah,
I'll start sharing my screen.
sure.
Okay, hope it is visible.
Yes, Aditya, we can see your slide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, hello everybody. My name is Aditya Deshpande. So, I work as a senior product manager at Druva. Prior to Druva, I worked at VP of Compliance Tech at Citibank. So, my session today is slightly different. It's coming more from the cybersecurity angle. It is going beyond the way we used to think about testing, and it's going something. It's a paradigm shift that is soon going to happen, or is actually happening now. So the premise is like for years, right? So it has been the case that we write the requirement, it's built, we test the application or the particular feature for its correctness, and coming today, right? So applications going beyond the applications, the features that are we are testing, the biggest risk now is something beyond that, right? So what these applications do, what everything that we work for, right? The underlying thing, which is the data. So the biggest risk now is shifting from more from the applications and how we do that to more towards like how do I protect that data? What is there in this data? And with data also come the sensitive attributes along with it, right? Which are tagged to different regulatory protocols. And our data is spread across the workloads. Like think about your current projects or the things that you work on. The data is everywhere. It must be on your endpoint laptops. It must be probably if you use cloud, it would be in your S3 buckets, in your RDS databases. It could be if you use Microsoft 365, it could be part of your OneDrive, SharePoint, Google Drives. I mean, it's everywhere. Just think about it, right? It could be in Salesforce, Workday, it's everywhere. So my session is about how testers would evolve from validating the functional features to validating the data security posture. Because right now, what is happening is that with just one minor exposure or one minor data breach, the organization is impacted way more than a one functional bug. So it causes a lot of money that goes into these breaches due to the attacks. So moving on, right? So let's understand the one term that we have read almost lot of times, right? Data is the new oil. We have read it almost in all the blogs. We have read it almost like with this OpenAI and all of this. Anything that we read, this is the first line any blog or any news or any article starts with. So what exactly it is, right? So now, as I said, like the paradigm has shifted that we want to protect the crown that is data. And what has happened since pandemic, right? Since 2020 is that we have nearly tripled the world's data. So we had roughly like 64 zettabytes of data in 2020. And if you come now, it's almost inching towards 200 zettabytes. So it's almost 3x now. And when I say that this is 3x, so what is happening? So today we are generating almost 400 million terabytes of data. And when I say we are generating that data, it's generated by probably by your applications, probably by AI, but it's stored somewhere. And that storage is sprawled across multiple environments. Think about it, right? Your business analyst could have got some production quality data just for testing. It could be lying somewhere in your D drive folder or some folder must be attached directly on the Jira. It could be lying somewhere in the QA or dev environments. Apart from that, there would have been some specs. There would have been any kind of sensitive data that is sprawled across your laptops, clouds, SaaS. And by that, I mean, think about it from the organizational level. Like even the simple things that we share with the HR, right? Before we join any company, we share our personal data. All of that is sensitive data. And why it's critical to protect that? Because it's a big surface that the ransomware attackers get. So I'll keep that ransomware topic probably for the next GTR talk. But the key message is that because the ransomwares are increasing, and if you could have seen the trend recently, like just for the H1 of 2025, 115 billion US dollars have been spent in paying the ransoms to get the data back. So that's the reality of data. Like the traditional perimeter security is no longer this sufficient, and we need to go beyond um, the functional mindset to get to the new data security mindset to protect it. So what my numbers say here is that almost a cost of a bridge almost cost an organization like 4.88 million. So this is not me saying it. So these are numbers that are published by IBM in their cost of data breach report. These are numbers that are published by Gartner and IDC. And the irony is that if you see these reports, right, what they're saying is that 60% of the organizations don't even know where their sensitive data is residing because the work fleet is so huge. We use so many different products and tools. There's no visibility into it. And the worst part is that if you're attacked or if there is a ransomware attack, it takes almost 194 days. That means it is taking almost 6 months just to identify that there is a data breach. And if you just Google, right, recent, like, okay, what are the latest data breaches or what are the recent ransomware attacks, you would see like most big names come in, right? M&S in the UK, Harrods in the UK, Jaguar. They're still recovering from these data breaches. They have no visibility what kind of data was stolen or what kind of data the ransomware attackers do have. And lastly, almost all of these attacks involve data exfiltration from your cloud data also. It's not like you move to cloud, it's safe. Almost 80% of the breaches involve theft from the cloud data. So I'm coming to the next slide, which will stitch the story. So now what exactly was this DSPM that I wrote on my session, right? What exactly is this DSPM? When did it come from? So DSPM is a term. It stands for data security posture management. So you would have heard this term probably if you work in cybersec or if you have listened to different articles on LinkedIn or YouTube or heard somewhere. So this term security posture management is coming quite a while. I mean, it has been in talks quite a while. You have cloud security posture, you have AI security posture, you have application AI security posture. So security posture is nothing but it's a reflection that gives to the organization that, hey, this is where you stand and what are the steps you need to take to fix these. So this DSPM term stands for Data Security Posture Management. It was coined by Gartner just 2 years back in 2023. And why did they coin this? Because a lot of cybersecurity organizations came together. And why they came together was that they came together to formalize something. And that something was we cannot secure something that I cannot see. So that was their underlying motto, agenda. Okay, we cannot secure something that we cannot see. And then the DSPM framework answers four critical questions. So ask these questions to yourself and just see like, can you answer this now? Like, what sensitive data do I have? Like, what is the sensitive data do you have as a tester on your laptop? And now imagine this is a CEO thinking or a CIO thinking. What sensitive data do I have? Where is my data stored? Where exactly it is stored, who is accessing my data, right? And how do I protect it? So these are the four questions that your data security posture management product should actually give you an answer to, like whenever it's being required. So what this DSPM does is it not only does the compliance part of it, it helps you get to the visibility of what your data is. Like if I work on a HIPAA project, or if I work on a GDPR or a PCI project, or a project that involves testing of a lot of financial data, so I need to ensure that I fit into this kind of framework and I answer these questions right away. So most of us probably work on a lot of financial projects, some healthcare projects, some e-commerce projects. If you look at the bottom line, everything that we do, all the data that is there, it will have some kind of customer data, it will have some kind of regulatory data, and then it ties back to all the regulations that if you breach it, then there is a hefty fine that is coming. So DSPM helps us to ensure that we get visibility of all of that. We get to know what are my entitlements, what are my compliance requirements, and I continuously monitor that. So that's the beauty of this data security posture that it gives me. And the takeaway is that DSPM provides a real-time visibility across all your workloads. So that is what it actually does. So I'll move to the next one. So having said that, like I asked 4 questions: what sensitive data do I have? Where is my data stored? Who has access to my data, and how do I protect it? So these were like the very simple questions. And what DSPM does is they translate it into 4 pillars. The pillars form like the data discovery and classification. So what it recommends is that at whole of my organization level, I need to start discovering one, where is my data staying, and then classifying it. So if some of you probably if you use M365, right? So if you try to save your Word document or an Excel, either it automatically puts a label on top of that while you're saving. If it contains something sensitive, it will say something as protected, or maybe it will ask you to put a label, maybe internal, public, or so confidential, so on and so forth. So what is that? That is classification. Okay. And that is manual classification. But what DSPM kind of promotes is that you need to have automated scanning to identify your personally identifiable information, your PHI, which directly corresponds to HIPAA and health regulations across the globe. So you should be able to detect that. PCI and the secrets that we store in the code base. The second pillar of DSPM is about your actual, it's the heart of that. It's the actual data security posture. So it tells you to get, okay, what configurations you have, what is our encryption status. So if any product that you work on, any project that you work on, if it is storing data in the database and it does have sensitive data, is that encrypted? Right? And if it is driven by some regulatory reporting project or some compliance, so this second pillar helps us answer that question, like is the compliance gap closed? Am I being compliant? And secondly, the very important one, the permission. Who has got permission to access this data? Who is seeing this data? Is the person even entitled to see that? So it is the heartbeat of the entire data security posture. The third pillar is the data access governance. So this is a very interesting one. So if in the SaaS apps, if you see your again, I'm coming to the M365 example. If you have Word file in your M365 environment or a presentation, you can track that versioning, and if it is being modified by multiple people, you could see that. So the third pillar is about data access governance. So it's more about, like, the example that I took is very vague, but it's more about who has access to your data, what are they accessing, when are they accessing, is there any anomaly in that kind of accesses? Like if I probably, like, let's say I belong in cybersec department, but I'm accessing some records of maybe just a payroll. So that's a very off track thing that I'm doing. So that the DSPM should flag it as an alert or an anomaly. And then what it also says is that you should implement principle of least privilege. That is that not everybody should have access to everything. It should be driven by the rule. And lastly, the last pillar is more about remediation and response. So this pillar says that if there is a breach detected, or if there is anything which is off track that is detected, so we must integrate SIEM tools and SOAR tools. So these are like very common terms in cybersec world. So if whenever there is an event, it should be reported on to this security tool so that the security operations center get to know what exactly has happened. Now, this was more from the day-to-day operational stuff, but imagine a ransomware attack. So in case of ransomware attack, this data access governance pillar comes into play. Like it exactly tells you like, okay, there was some suspicious activity that has happened. Somebody tried to access the company's financial records. The credentials look bit off. Somebody has tried to access the IP of the company, and also it also tells that, okay, what kind of data sensitive label was tagged to it. Like has the attacker got access to something which was very sensitive and customer data? And if yes, then this has to be reported as a part of GDPR's compliance guideline within 72 hours. So DSPM brings all that visibility out. It reduces the time to action and brings all that posture visibility to the senior management. So next one is like why organizations need that. I think by now it's been clear like why it needs. Who is the end consumer? This is like your CISOs, CIOs, data privacy officers, legal counsel, compliance officers. So they are the ones who are majorly responsible for the security of the data, for ensuring that the organization is compliant. But they are not the only ones who the responsibility lies with. It lies with everybody. So why organizations need it is that number one, the whole premise is that if I don't have visibility, I lose. If there is an attack, I don't even know what was stolen and what kind of information was stolen. So first is that like it's a big risk and I want to mitigate that risk. I need a product to help cover that cost. And if I don't cover it, I must have a good bank balance to pay out a big ransom to the ransomware attackers. Secondly, as an organization, I want to be compliant. So rules like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI, DSS, SOC 2, CCP, and lot more, even in India, DPDP now, all of these invite penalties. The moment there is a breach, they tell you to publish all the proofs and all the activity within 72 hours. If you're not able to understand what was breached, come and pay the fine. So a lot of recent examples, right? TikTok, there's a very recent example where in Ireland, they fined it 530 million euros. Meta was also fined 1.2 billion. These are just some recent numbers that have picked up from 2025. And why they were picked up? Because the data of these, there was a data leak, some ransomware happened. These companies don't know what kind of data was stolen. That's the outcome that we have to bear. And lastly, like efficiency, like DSPM, it get rid of your manual data discovery. It automates everything. It brings down the discovery to just couple of hours with a high level of accuracy. And lastly, trust, because everything that we do as a business, at a company, whichever company we work for, it's built on a trust and reputation. So the need is that I need to ensure that I protect my customers. I have the data protected. Even if there is an attack, I know visibility into what was stolen, what was exfiltrated. And if I don't have that, the statistics, again, the report that was I was alluding to, they say that almost if you burn that trust out, customers won't do business. I mean, that is very important. And then lastly, fines are increasing year on year. So it's a must have for most of the companies. So I'll just quickly give a glimpse of what exactly the market landscape look like, and you might see some familiar names who are doing this stuff and what's coming your way. So data security posture management is the fastest growing cybersecurity category. So this is not me saying it's growing at 37% YOY. This is said by Gartner and Frost and Civilian report that came out recently. So it's the fastest growing vertical in the cybersecurity category. And the best part of it is it has got everything to it. Like it has got data, it has got compliance, it has got cybersecurity. It needs all of your expertise from functional to automation to domain to contribute to this domain. There are some pure play DSPM companies. I'm just flashing it so that you must know, like, okay, these are the organizations which are coming in, and why you should know is Gartner has predicted that 75% of businesses will be adopting DSPM by 2026. And if they don't adopt, we see that people have to pay out fines, and there is an increasing regulatory pressure. So that is why you would have seen companies like Microsoft, when you offer features like putting those labels when you're saving a document, or putting those sensitivity labels, and coming up with products like Purview Compliance. So that is just for this reason. And these are just some of the companies which operate in this space. Even we at Drew are kind of doing this now. So I'll shift to the next topic. I'll skip this slide. I just want to bring in, like, okay, now that I've told you about DSPM, now how exactly is that mind shift changing? So the key message that I want to give is, like, for DSPM, we need to think like an attacker. We need to think like a compliance auditor. We also need to ensure that beyond, like, whatever work you're doing right now, like the functional testing, TSVM also helps you to have that security and compliance angle along with that. It's like, okay, you're finding bugs, great. But then what are you doing from the data security posture angle? Are you monitoring are you understanding, like, what kind of data it is, what kind of data your application has got, where is it stored, the entire data flow. So you need to understand all of that. Secondly, like, we focused on features that are working correctly. But then, okay, your features are working correctly, but what happens when you're not encrypting something like an SSN number, or probably a PAN card number, or maybe passport number? What happens if your API is giving out all those credentials out when the data transfer is happening? As a tester, also you need to know, like, how that data flow is happening, where it is getting stored, who is accessing that, when are they accessing that, is that audit trail stored? So I know that, okay, feature has worked correctly, it has given all the data, or perfectly fine. With DSPM, that is the paradigm shift that will be coming in, right? You will soon start seeing that, because it's a must have now. And lastly, like, not only performing the regression checks on the UI and APIs, the automation that comes with DSPM is more upon, like, hey, have I marked a document as correct with the correct sensitivity label? Am I able to detect the passport number, which looks like a passport number, but probably it's a garbage text? Is it flashing it as false positive, or is it flashing it rightly? Is it detecting it correctly or not? So that sort of details come into picture beyond your traditional, or I'll say the um, main line of test. And also, apart from it, DSPM is coupled with conversational AI capabilities now. So will a CISO go and see a DSPM product and all this dashboard and read it? Obviously not. So I think Mamta was alluding to MCP servers, and previous also in the talks, a lot of things about agentic AI and MCPs. So what this C-level guys want at the disposal is just ask a question: what is the sensitive data that I have been storing? So they just want to give a prompt and get answers to that. And your prompt, I mean, the testing for this prompt, the testing for storing the actual data, the testing for actual understanding, like, what goes into that prompt, am I getting the right response? So that is again a new paradigm shift that will happen with DSPM's testing. So I just listed down, like, okay, for example, how it helps in your data discovery to test the accuracy, how it will help in the classification, like, does it correctly identify SSN, phone numbers, credit cards? Does it do this access control validation? Does it understand, like, okay, what are my overprivileged account? Who is my super user? If somebody was in read-only mode, have they got write access suddenly? And have I triggered an alert to that SIM and SOAR tool that I have? So that's the mindset is coming in. Okay.
Go ahead, Aditya. I think that was my,
Okay. No,
yeah.
no worries. Okay. So now I'll just quickly touch base on this. You should not know this probably like upfront, but I'm just giving a heads up like what this data security poster product come with. I mean, it comes with the fact that if you take a out of the box product, might not need to do anything of this sort. But if you want to build this ground up at your organizations, or if there is a project that would be coming it in 2026, so what forms of DSPM is that like it's not a black box. It's a and it's not just one single product either. So the beauty of that is it comes with different components. So it has got scanners. So what are my scanners? So scanners help me detect sensitive data. So these are libraries which are published by organizations like Apache, Intel, Symantec, Microsoft Purview. So these are like the libraries which help you detect, scan, and identify what that element is. So I just took very basic examples in my talk, like passport numbers, SSN, and whatnot, but go beyond. For each country, there'll be hundreds of elements that they classify as PII. There'll be hundreds of terms in the healthcare industry where they classify it into HIPAA bucket. Same with the PCI DSS in the credit card industry. So all these libraries, they help you map the sensitive data elements. So they are already intelligent libraries who have already done that hard work. So these are like the scanners. Parsers help you parse your documents, parse your databases, parse any content that you have across any workload to a format that these scanners would understand. And classifiers again is something which is very, very similar to your scanners. It is powered by some cloud tools like AWS Macy. You would have heard about that, Google DLP. So these put an additional label on top of your data that, okay, this was a legal data, this was a financial data, this was a healthcare record, and so on and so forth. And the policy engines. So policy engines are like, okay, you must, when do I trigger this kind of scans? What should I be calling it as something as a PII kind of encryption, or what should I be calling? How should I be detecting that? So policy engines are defined by, again, some other organizations who know when to have that trigger in place, how to actually activate that trigger. How does it orchestrate with all of my scanners and parsers and classifiers? So policy engine is actually configured first in order to orchestrate that. And your remediation pipeline. So the moment you detect something was off, some data exfiltration is detected, some access violation is detected. So throw an alert into a SIMSO tool, quarantine that particular person, isolate their access, and obviously the ability to integrate with the cloud and all these workflows where all that sensitive data is located. So as a testing team, if you would be building this out, or if this you're using any kind of product out of the box, you should know that DSPM should be able to accurately detect, classify, protect that data, and also understand how these things work, so that you can easily test false positive, true positive workflows. So coming to some areas, so what we do at Dhruva,
Aditya, just sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we
Mhm.
have like around 5 minutes. So
Yeah, I'm about to finish, probably just one slide more.
thank you.
Yeah. So what exactly comes under DSPM testing areas is it requires a knowledge base across all the four things, right? It requires your functional expertise, whatever we saw, like the traditional mainstream testing the apps. But beyond that, it also requires you to understand how this discovery and classification processes work, the actual data aspect of it, what data is being stored, who's accessing that. Are you able to understand the domain aspects of it, right? So I said GDPR. So what does GDPR mean? What is the compliance part which comes into GDPR? How do I map, probably like first name, last name, email ID, phone number? How do I map that with GDPR regulation? And if my product is not compliant, probably file a test, a bug, and get it fixed. Automation for policy enforcement and triggers, putting the classification rules, putting those labels, is kind of automating and ingesting all of that data. And then of course the performance testing part of it, because every day the data would be scanned, whatever data is generated, it will be scanned in batches every day at some interval of time. So the performance of it, like have I generated a spike, how easy, how effectively my DSPM product is working. So the DSPM testing areas requires whole bunch of things that we already do, but beyond the mainstream, like it requires a data mindset. And lastly, I'll put this like, what is your role in DSPM era, right? So this is the final takeaway. So as a it's DSPM is like a quality discipline. It's not just a security tool. And as testers, what you find like data, you find the data if it is classified correctly, accesses are not overexposed, the policies don't fail. So this is what you ensure. And finally, like you cannot secure what you cannot see. So that's the main message that DSPM gives in. So accuracy is everything of the classification. And the message is that the future of QA, like this is something which will happen very, very soon. That's what I see. Understanding lies in understanding the data, not just the code. And DSPM is like that backbone wherein you understand the data of the organization and you're experts into testing. So you help protect the organizations with the data driven risks. So that's the takeaway message. That's what this data security posture gives. Probably if you Google out, if you reach out to me, be very happy to take it to the next level, make you understand how it is going to work, and that's it. So open for the questions, and we can stay connected on LinkedIn and probably talk about more if this interests you.
Thank you, Aditya. Do we have any questions? Can I please ask Srimay to thank him with a slide?
Sure, Dipti. Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, Aditya, for your wonderful session.